Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. That hump. Star Sovereign knelt down and propped himself on his divine sword with a laugh while looking at the old foe that was walking toward him. Old human emperor, you and I are just puppets on a string, toys of the true gods. So what if you struggle to block us here? There are two groups from high heavens, and we are here just to hold your attention. The ones who are truly here to activate the meteorological divine weapons is the other group. Eternal peace is bound to be destroyed. In front of him, the primordial spirit behind village chief was blazing fiercely as though he was a god burning with flames of light. However, this god was worn out at that moment, finding it hard to keep itself up. It gradually dimmed and almost went out before blazing vigorously again. This repeated over and over again, making it evident that the old sword god wanted to maintain his peak strength even at the cost of exhausting the last of his chi and blood. Star Sovereign Xiao, where's the other group? Village chief walked over, ignoring everyone else in the battlefield. His gaze stared intensely at him. You and I are old foes, so now that we're both about to die, show kindness with your words. Do you really want to see countless lives in Eternal Peace Empire be wiped out? A crumbling noise came from inside of Star Sovereign Xiao's body. This handsome god was the color of death as he chuckled. What do the lives of those lowly life forms have to do with me? He raised his head to look at the sky and muttered, the star that belongs to me is finally going to fall. Catcher. A soft crack came from his sword, and another soft crack followed right after, before becoming concentrated. The cracking became faster and faster, until the crumbling of his body became all that could be heard. The primordial spirit behind village chief's back dimmed once more, and he roused his chi and blood again, wanting to recover his primordial spirit back to its peak, but he couldn't do it no matter what. For him now was like a tattered bellow which was leaking air everywhere. He wanted to reignite his life force, but his body was too broken. He had been crippled, lost all 4 of his limbs. This affected his corporeal body and also his battle power. However, the most crucial point was that he was old. He was so old that his lifespan was coming to an end. He originally still had a year or more left, so if he had lived out his life peacefully and cultivated diligently, he might have been able to patch his divine bridge before he died, entering another realm and becoming a god. However, this battle had made him exhaust the last of his chi and blood. There was no longer any way for him to reignite his life force. Tell me, where did the other group go? Village chief shouted. Star Sovereign Xiao, where are you from? Were you not like these people in the past, a lowly life form as you put it? Star Sovereign Xiao had already closed his eyes to await his death, but his body suddenly shook, and he opened his eyes which were blank without any life in them. Sword wounds were opening one after another on his body. They continued to grow deeper as though there was an invisible sword that was slowly slicing open his corporeal body. Village chief's last move had cut off his life force and his divine treasures were crumbling apart. His corporeal body was also torn apart, so he was destined to die there. What's the use? Star Sovereign Xiao lowered his head and scorned him. Do you still have the ability to stop them? You are also going to die, old friend, so know your place and sit down, follow me to the other side. We can accompany each other on the road to the Yellow Springs. Tell me, which way did they go? Village chief said solemnly. Star Sovereign Xiao raised his head to look at him before his blank eyes turned to look at the darkness of great ruins. His breath suddenly became urgent. They should be almost there, cough cough, if you still have the ability, then go and stop them. His face changed drastically, and he suddenly grabbed village chief's clothes while shouting himself hoarse. I see the fires of hell, the fires of the countless dead people from eternal peace, demanding their lives from me. Stop them. Don't let the deaths of those people become my sin. Don't come over, don't come over. It's not my fault, I was just following orders. For every grievance there is someone responsible, for every debt there is a debtor. I'm not the one that wanted all of you to die. Village chiefs struggled to break free from his grasp, then rushed off to leave. Star Sovereign Xiao's pupils shrank more and more, as though he was seeing something abnormally frightening as he shouted crazily, "It's not my fault, I'm also helpless, don't demand your lives from me. I see countless paper boats, so many paper boats sailing from eternal peace into the darkness. My God, what's that? The horns of earth count. Hell. This is hell. Save me. True gods, where are the true gods overseeing me? Come and save me. You guys promised me to not let Earth Count take me away to judge me. Save me." After a moment, Star Sovereign Qiao stopped breathing with a look of endless terror frozen on his face. Pack. The divine sword in his hand suddenly turned into dust which scattered on the floor. The lifeless body of Star Sovereign Qiao collapsed forward, and his sword wounds erupted altogether, tearing apart his corpse. Village Chief rushed into the darkness of great ruins at top speed. His primordial spirit was sometimes bright and sometimes dim. He was doing his best to rouse the last of his blood to prevent his corporeal body from dying, to prevent his determination from fading away. He could feel the call of death, and it was becoming harder and harder for his corporeal body to hold his soul. Death was closing in on him. He felt something chasing him, but truth be told, he'd frequently had this feeling in the recent years. It had to be the call from the Yudu world. It was the law of heaven and earth in Yudu that was restricting him, wanting to take away his soul. With the gradual death of his corporeal body, this kind of restraint was becoming stronger and stronger. The calling from the world of darkness was thus becoming stronger and stronger as well. It was the pact of Earth Count. The moment anyone was born, they would sign this kind of pact. The moment their corporeal body died, their soul would belong to Earth Count, living in silence in Yudu thereafter. Keeping the corporeal body alive was the crux in jumping out of the pact. Gods cultivated their corporeal body to the god realm, and in the last divine treasure, a divine bridge was hidden. Their primordial spirits would cross it to become gods, and at that time, when their corporeal bodies became godlike, their primordial spirits would no longer be restrained by the pact of Earth Count. Village Chief had also had this possibility, but Star Sovereign Qiao had cut off that path before he had died. Village Chief could only hope that he could find the other group of gods and devils from high heavens that had gone forward to send the disaster. Yet even if he found them, he didn't know if he still had the strength to continue fighting. "I'm really old." Village Chief felt his chi and blood fluctuating, and he could barely restrain his primordial spirit. It suddenly shook violently, wanting to leave his body, but he didn't stop to rest. It was likely that when stopped, he would collapse forever. He continued forward frantically in the company of countless monsters that stirred in the darkness. They followed him along the foothills, waiting for the moment he died. When he collapsed, they would swarm him and tear him to pieces. He ran slower and slower, feeling his limbless body growing heavier and heavier. Sorrow suddenly welled up within him as he let out a bitter laugh, wishing to stop. "I guess I'm really dying." At that moment, he saw a huge bird flapping its wings through the darkness. It flew ahead of him and landed on a peak. After folding its wings, it transformed into a god with a bird's head and a human body. He used his beak to carefully prune his feathers. "Time's up." A human voice came from its beak. Village Chief continued to walk forward, his speed becoming slower and slower. "Give me a moment more." He heard his voice as though it was coming from tens of thousands of miles away, distant and hazy. "Give me a moment more, I still have unfinished business." The bird-headed god gave him a weird glance before repeating his words. "Time's up. Please wait." Village Chief heard a sob in his voice when he said, "Please wait a moment more. I don't want eternal peace to become hell. I can still fight. I'm the human emperor of this land, after all, I still have the responsibility and burden." Mocking came from the darkness as though the bird-headed god was laughing, and Village Chief seethed with anger. "You dare to laugh at me? Even though I'm old, my magnificent aspirations have never changed." The bird-headed god flapped his wings to fly up, chasing away the monsters in the darkness. He circled around, then suddenly landed on a branch nearby. "I'm laughing at a warrior in his decline, wallowing in pointless sorrow with persistence, for he has no more strength." Village Chief ignored him and continued to stumble forward. After a moment, he saw the bird-headed god stop in front of him and call out, "Time to go. If you don't go, the messenger of death will come. There's still an old friend waiting for you in Fengdu. I can still fight." Village chief saw that his face had already turned black and the aura of death had already spread to his head, moving his brain toward death. His divine treasures started to crumble, yet his primordial spirit still continued to stand on Magpie Bridge. Below it was boundless darkness without any bottom. It was his divine bridge, divine treasure, so there shouldn't be anything else from the outside world there, but something invading it from the darkness. It was another world, the world of Yudu. His corporeal body had already entered the state of death, so Yudu world was entering him through his divine treasure. From the boundless darkness inside, a paper boat floated over into his divine treasure, closing in on his primordial spirit. He should go, for if he didn't, Earth Count would take away his primordial spirit. It looked towards the opposite shore of Magpie Bridge, which was Mysterious Guide Bridge. However, there was still a distance between the two bridges, and he needed to cultivate secrets of divine crossing to be able to cross and enter the realm of legends. Yet his chi and blood had completely withered, and his vital chi could no longer flow through his dead body. It was completely impossible for him to execute secrets of divine crossing. As human emperor, I want to fight again. He let out an angry roar, but he could no longer even hear his own voice. At that moment, he saw a ship sailing through the darkness. That ship was like a three-legged toad formed from mountains and rays of moonlight. On it, a giant was swinging half a broken moon to smash against a god, nearly crippling him with one strike. Stunned, village chief stopped. It was Moon's ship. He had seen this ship once. When he went to find Carefree Village, Qin Mu had once driven it through the darkness to look for him. Never had he expected to encounter it again. What was currently fighting with the ship was a god from high heavens. Compared to Yang Jingjing, Qin Mu was simply too violent. He swung the moon and just smashed it against his enemy, completely ignoring the consequences. Other than him, the dragon Chelin was on the ship too, and on its back were the little fox and Sai Yunxiao. There was also a sapphire blue divine flood dragon king flying around to fight with another god of high heavens. Mua. Tears flowed down village chief's eyes, and his heart was suddenly at ease. It gradually stopped beating. The bird-headed god turned to look at him and said, "Now you can be at ease. Follow me, King Yama is waiting for you." Village chief's heart beat for the last time and he smiled, "I refuse to give in to old age." His primordial spirit leaped up from Magpie Bridge as it rushed towards celestial heavens on the other shore. "I was born as the god of war. I will never accept death." His primordial spirit laughed loudly, and his sword chi spread out and hindered, rushing towards celestial heavens that were shining radiantly. That moment seemed to last an eternity. However, his white-haired corporeal body fell. Qin Mu looked toward the sound and saw village chief gradually solidifying into a stone statue as he fell from the sky. Village chief's stone statue landed in front of Moon's ship. It was missing its 4 limbs. It was a sculpture of an old man who had experienced many vicissitudes of life. The wrinkles on his face seemed to have been sculpted by hardships and formed by the erosion of time. The stone statue was looking in Qin Mu's direction with a relieved smile. At the sight of it, Qin Mu couldn't help remembering the tender and loving smile of the elder who lay in his recliner while looking at him. Village chief, Qin Mu stared blankly at the stone statue as an indescribable sorrow suddenly poured out from his heart. The darkness was around him and the ghostly glow given off from the stone statue didn't cover a wide range, but it reminded him of the slightly stubborn elder who wanted to stubbornly protect him even after he was gone. Grandpa Village Chief. Droplets of tears that were like moonlight fell from Qin Mu's eyes. They floated in the sky, glistening in the moonlight. Suddenly, Divine Flood Dragon King's miserable cries rang out, and Qin Mu shut his eyes to squeeze the moonlight within them out. He had entered deep into great ruins with the protection of Divine Flood Dragon King, barging into the place he had once mistaken for Carefree Village, the place where was the huge land ship constructed by Ministry of Heavenly Works. He then took Moon's ship to return. He was trying to enter Moon well when he met the other group of gods who were hurrying over from high heavens. There weren't many of them, just 3. Those three gods were not acting ostentatiously like Star Sovereign Xiao and the rest, transforming into starlight to hurry on their way. They were traveling on land with their dazzling divine light concealed, giving off only a faint glow to force back the monsters in the darkness. When Qin Mu encountered them, one of the gods thought he was a peculiarity of the darkness and immediately said in the god language, "High heavens is handling affairs, monsters be gone." After that, he immediately suffered a destructive strike from Qin Mu. He was caught completely off guard and hit by the broken moon up that came smashing toward him and shattered all of his bones. Only then did the other two gods realize that they had met a strong foe. Qin Mu was different from Yang Jingjing. She had to be careful not to damage the sun, but he had nothing to worry about and no consequences to take into account. He fought the two gods for several thousand miles until he managed to cripple the second god with brute force alone. The reason why he had needed such a long time for it was mainly because Moon Ship's moon was broken and inferior to Sun Ship's sun. Sun Ship possessed a complete sun while the moon of Moon Ship had already extinguished and was even cracked. After battling for so long, Moon Ship was in a rather bad condition while the two chains holding onto the moon simply broke off. However, at the instant Qin Mu saw village chief, he still fell into a daze. The sight of his elder turning into a stone statue and falling from the sky stirred up his emotions, causing a kind of indescribable sorrow to pour out. The battle power of Divine Flood Dragon King was similar to that of Dragon Rearing Sovereign, whose abilities were inferior to the other gods of high heavens. The instant Qin Mu lost focus, he was severely injured. Qin Mu opened his eyes and raised his hand to loosen his grip on the divine pillars, wanting to touch that limbless stone statue that was smiling at him. His huge palm streaked past the front of the stone statue, but it didn't land on it. Whoosh! His palm grabbed a chain that was hanging down and his hair fluttered with his anger. The chain whooshed through the darkness to bind the god of high heavens who had severely injured the divine flood dragon king, coiling around him tightly. Qin Mu's other arms pulled the broken moon over and smashed it right on the god. The divine flood dragon king cried out in astonishment. He was right next to them, so if he was hit as well, he would either die or end up really close to that state. He rolled and tumbled away in a hurry to avoid the strike, but the half-moon still brushed past his body, scraping off a huge dragon scale. The divine flood dragon king gritted his teeth from the searing pain while tears rolled down his cheeks. Kaboom! The broken moon smashed onto the body of the god of high heavens, and the mountains shook. The monsters in the surrounding darkness cried out in astonishment and fled in all directions. Boom! Qin Mu didn't say a word and swung the broken moon up to smash it down again, and again, and again, and again. Chunks of rocks that were the size of a mountain broke off from the moon before being crushed to powder. The god who had just been crippled by Qin Mu looked over with fear. He hurriedly ignored his pain and quickly hobbled away. His heart was flustered, and he could only hear the hammering coming behind him, knocking heavily on his heart. It made his scalp crawl. This brat is crazy. He must be crazy. It isn't worth it to pit my life against his. I'm just here to complete the mission assigned by the higher-ups. I don't have to fight to the death. He hurried off into the distance when a loud crack suddenly came from behind him. The moon shattered from Qin Mu's smashing, and chunks of rocks filled the sky. Without the moon, Qin Mu instantly felt all his strength fading away as he returned to being a divine arts practitioner of Six Directions realm. If the crippled god turned back to look, he could easily kill the weak him with the raising of a hand, but that god was frightened out of his wits and never turned back. Qin Mu sat on the worn-out moon ship and gasped heavily for breath. The dragon Chilean looked at him in fear while the other flood dragons were shivering as they hid behind him. All their gazes were filled with terror as they looked at Qin Mu. Thick chains hung from the ship, but Moon Ship no longer had the terrifying aura from before. The rings of flowing moonlight had also vanished without a trace. Darkness poured forth and soon drowned them out, but the monsters stayed far away, not daring to come near. Qin Mu looked at the smiling stone statue in front of Moon Ship. It was a satisfied smile. You are still alive, you must be still alive. Divine Flood Dragon King. Qin Mu struggled to get up and shouted, "Go lift that stone statue." The Divine Flood Dragon King was covered in injuries, and it was a struggle for him to fly over. He exerted himself and lifted the stone statue. Qin Mu was extremely nervous and shouted, "Is it heavy?" The Divine Flood Dragon King quickly placed the stone statue down and replied truthfully, "Extremely. Carrying a stone statue is equivalent to carrying a god. Grandpa Blind wouldn't have lied to me. You are really still alive. You are living in some place, it's just not this world. You are like the other stone statues in great ruins and will sometimes wake up in the darkness." Qin Mu laughed loudly, but as he did so, he suddenly began to wipe tears from his eyes. "I have seen a stone statue come back to life and ride the dragon Chelin to quell the rebellion, so you must be able to do it as well. Right?" Sai Yinxiang looked at the young sacred cult master and suddenly felt that the heart of the incomparably crafty big boy that was acclaimed as the great devil king was actually pure. Not only that, it was also fragile. Or it could be said that underneath his firm and persistent cover hid a soft heart. Qin Mu wiped his tears dry and shouted loudly, "You will come back, won't you? If I cry, you will laugh at me, you will say I'm still a wimpy kid." He called the Divine Flood Dragon King over and climbed on his back with the others. All the sorrow and joy on his face had vanished, leaving only an emptiness behind. "Let's go. Go after that god who escaped. We definitely cannot let him enter eternal peace alive." The Divine Flood Dragon King answered him and chased after the traces left behind by the crippled god. Qin Mu turned back to look and village chief's stone statue gradually disappearing into the darkness. He recorded the place in his memories. "No matter where your soul goes, I will go and find you. You are my family, my kin." He raised his head to look at the boundless darkness. "Even if you land in the hands of Earth Count, I will fight my way there and ask for it back. Your Majesty, my injuries are very heavy right now, so even if we catch up to that god, we might not be his opponent," the Divine Flood Dragon King said carefully. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes wrinkled and he said, "I will refine pills to heal your injuries so you can be at ease. Besides, there are so many flood dragons around, he won't be able to escape from my grasp." The Divine Flood Dragon King was still slightly worried. "Hopefully, this god will pass by Surging River." In Fengdu, the living realm of the dead, the bird-headed god brought village chief past the stone tablet, and the old man lowered his head to see his body slowly recovering. His heart grew, followed by his head, body, and even his limbs. Over there, he felt that he was still alive. The living realm of the dead, truly a wonderful world. He looked at the bird-headed god and asked, "If I leave here, will I be dead or alive?" The bird-headed god shook his head and said, "Of course you will be dead. But your luck isn't bad, since you actually managed to leave a breath behind before your corporeal body died. But stop thinking about your old body. If you go past this boundary stone, your flesh and bones will melt. You no longer belong to the real world. Let's go, there's an old friend waiting for you." Village chief followed him with his sleeves fluttering. He suddenly stopped again and said with a bitter smile, "I'm not used to having my arms and legs, too used to being crippled." He passed through Fengdu's gates of hell and came to the first big city. It was one of many in Fengdu. The place they entered seemed to have just undergone a huge battle as there were traces of war everywhere. "Your old friend is waiting on the bridge of helplessness right in front." The bird-headed god stopped and raised his talon while pushing his beak forward in a motioning gesture. "You still hate me?" Village chief asked with a smile. "I hate the smell of a living person." The bird-headed god flapped his wings to leave. "You still have a breath left in your corporeal body which makes your smell vile for me." Village chief walked forward, and after a moment, he saw the bridge of helplessness. A tall and sturdy person was standing on it with his back facing him. Under the bridge, everything was hazy, lacking clarity. Village chief was slightly stunned, feeling that the back was somewhat familiar. He suddenly became excited and quickly walked to the bridge of helplessness. His footsteps became faster and faster as he hurried toward the person. "You." The tall and sturdy figure turned around and smiled. "You finally came. I've waited a long time for you. It's been hard on you these years." Village chief kicked the tall and sturdy man off the bridge while scolding him furiously, "You old bastard, tricked me to become the human emperor, to carry a burden I couldn't carry at all while you hid here, living a free and happy life. Stop acting dead and climb up the bridge so I can beat you to death. Master, master? Are you still alive? The fog churned under the bridge, and there was a monster which tried to grab the tall and sturdy man to drag him down. Shocked, village chief wanted to save him, but then stopped mid-action. After waiting for a moment, the man fought back the monster and climbed back onto the bridge of helplessness while panting heavily. Village chief raised his leg, wanting to kick him back in again, but the man immediately raised his hands. Stop, stop. I'm really dead, or else I wouldn't have passed the human emperor's seal to you. My corpse and bones have already decomposed into mud, having been buried outside Hall of Human Emperors. If you don't believe me, you can go and dig them up. Village chief's scalp crawled as he asked suspiciously, You aren't lying to me again? What for? Those that come here are all basically dead, the man said while smiling. Let me bring you to meet your grandmaster. He died sometime before me. Village chief followed that man and saw traces of battle in Fengdu city. Some gods and devils could still be seen encircling paper men and paper horses, which bewildered him. Fengdu just went through a huge battle. King Yama had personally led us to fight against Yudu, the man said. This isn't the first time, though. We've fought quite a lot of times in the past. This time it was because of Yudu's invasion. Yudu is always observing the world outside Great Ruins, and they felt that eternal peace calamity was about to erupt, so they got ready to collect their souls, but they were forced back by us. Village chief was dumbstruck. War between Fengdu world and Yudu world? He had no idea that such a thing had actually happened in Great Ruins, which were shrouded in darkness. There had been a war between two worlds, yet Great Ruins was still calm and peaceful. No traces of anything happening could be detected, which was simply inconceivable. As for eternal peace calamity and collecting the souls that his master had mentioned, it was even more terrifying. He shuddered not from the cold. Just a couple words from his master contained enough information for him to lose himself in deep thought. If that wasn't enough, he learned that Fengdu had fought with Yudu numerous times in the past, which meant that were numerous other secrets about which people didn't know. They came to a mansion and the man knocked on the door, smiling at the elder who opened it. Old fart, I've brought your disciple's disciple to see you. Good disciple, come and greet your grandmaster. Village chief aimed a kick at his butt and balls before saying angrily, How could you speak like that to my grandmaster? My grandmaster is still your master, yet you show no etiquette at all. His master grew furious. He tricked me to take up this role, and can you imagine how much hardship I suffered for it? A family wrenched apart, friends dying one by one, so calling him old fart is already letting him off lightly. Besides, I'm your master, so where's your etiquette? Your temper has grown, you need a beating. Stop quarreling. The elder was also furious. We are all human emperors, so how can we quarrel every time we meet? I'll bring you to meet my master. That old scumbag will definitely be happy seeing you guys dead as well. Village chief and the tall and sturdy old man were both slightly unhappy. Village chief said, Grandmaster, even though he's your master, he's also my great-grandmaster, so isn't it slightly disrespectful to call him old scumbag? The elder sneered at him. That old scumbag tricked me to become the human emperor and made my life hard, taking away all the fun from it. If he wasn't already dead, I wouldn't want anything more than to beat him to death. Let's go, I will bring you guys to meet him. Village chief and the tall and sturdy man looked at each other in dismay. The master dusted off his clothes and asked in a low voice, Good disciple, have you passed down the position of the human emperor? Village chief nodded. The tall and sturdy man let out a shaky breath and said, After your disciple dies, he will definitely find this place to scold and beat you, saying that you have ruined his life. Village chief became nervous and shook his head. Mua is a good child and wouldn't do this. Mua is the most filial. The tall and sturdy man sneered at him. I thought you would hug me with a face full of tears after you died, yet you ended up giving me a kick. If you are like this, then what could be said about your disciple? Just wait for him to beat you up after he dies. That's right, have you lied to him before? Village chief's face instantly blackened as he muttered, "I lied to him, saying that he's an overlord body, and he ended up pretty hardworking." "What overlord body?" The elder turned his head back, looking rather curious. Village chief told them the whole story, and the two devils were dumbfounded. They were speechless for a long time and could only raise their thumbs up at village chief. "You are definitely dead," the two of them said over and over again. "Your lie is the most ruthless, you're definitely going to die. Even though we also lied to our disciples, we didn't lie this horribly. You are good, making him live his whole life in a huge lie. After he dies, he won't just stop at kicking you and calling you an old fart." Village chief's face grew black as charcoal. He consoled himself, "Mua won't do that, he won't do that, Mua is the most filial. You were also very filial back then. You were the most filial to me, but didn't you kick me down the bridge the moment you saw me?" "Shut up, old bastard." The divine flood dragon king chased after the traces of the injured god, all the way to God-broken mountain range. Qin Mu suppressed his feebleness and refined spirit pills to heal the divine flood dragon king's injuries. Driving moon ship had exhausted him greatly. The moon was a treasure forged by God Qing, but it was already extinguished, so it wasn't able to supply the humongous energy that moon ship required. To drive it then, Qin Mu had to sacrifice his life force. When he had fished out a new sun for the sun herders, he had exhausted a huge amount of life force and could only barely recover by soaking in the pond of pure yang. Controlling moon ship had also exhausted him greatly. It was a pity that the degree of damage to moon ship was much more severe than that to sun ship, and the pond of pure yin had also dried up, so he was unable to replenish his life force. He could only rely on himself to slowly recover. However, since he had to chase after the injured god so he wouldn't be able to reach eternal peace, Qin Mu had no time to treat himself. This god of high heavens didn't go by surging river. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes wrinkled and his heart sank. If the god of high heavens had taken the path of surging river, he could use Dragon King to block him. With his battle power added to that of the divine flood Dragon King, they should have been able to take him down. But since he didn't walk by surging river, even if the divine flood Dragon King caught up, it was unknown if he was strong enough to take down that god. If I use secrets of dragon control by dragon rearing sovereign to borrow the power of the flood dragons, I might be able to fight. Qin Mu turned back to have a look at the flood dragons beside the dragon Chelin. He was slightly reluctant since a life and death battle would mean that the flood dragons would either end up dead or injured. Once that happened, he would be powerless to defend even himself. God-broken mountain range at the border of great ruins was 3,000 to 4,000 miles away from them, but they could already see the fierce battle there. Qin Mu could feel terrifying shockwaves pulsing from time to time, formed by the clashing weapons and divine arts. He could even faintly see Butcher's knife lights. Newt's great furnace was burning the sky, giving it a scarlet-red color. Without village chief powerful existence, Butcher, King Yi, and Newt, how many of them could still survive? This video will end here.